Hello there, Connecticut. Welcome to Keisha's World. My name is Keisha Charmaine Stuckey. I am your host of Keisha's World. And today we have a fabulous guest with us, Reverend Middiree Gibbs. Thank you so much for joining us anytime. And Middiree, this is actually her second time being on the show because we just loved her so much the first time. We had to have her back. So today, in honor of Domestic Violence Month, we're just going to touch on some of those issues. And I hope that there is some women out there that will be able to benefit from what we are going to be sharing today. So definitely stay tuned. And if you know anybody that is a victim of domestic violence, or, you know, please pick up the phone, call them, tell them to tune in to Channel 15, Comcast Public Access, so that they can check this out and hopefully get some insight. So, Reverend Middiree Gibbs, now, how long have you been a minister?
Going on 4 years, so
Okay.
about four and a half years.
Nice. So, what do you do as far as your ministerial work?
I'm actually the youth pastor at Grace and Mercy, so I teach the kids every Sunday morning. I'm also a counselor for our drug addiction rehab program, Access to Recovery, ATR. So I do the counseling for that. I'm there on Tuesdays and Thursdays to assist with my clients, a member of the praise team, and just wherever I can help, that's where I am.
Oh, that's awesome. So what do you do with the youth? Do you kind of pull them out of service and do stuff with them?
Yeah, actually we actually have a separate section, so we take them out of the service, and then we have our own service, you know, and we learn about the Bible our way.
Nice.
It's important to me that, you know, when I'm spending time with the kids, that I'm able to take the Bible and relate it to their world right now. You know, so you know. We were talking about Noah's Ark not too long ago, but they couldn't really understand, you know, how big Noah's Ark was. So we had to compare it to a football field. Let's compare it to, you know, a building that you see. Now do you get a better idea of how big it is.
Nice. So you guys basically meet the kids where they're at their level.
Absolutely.
And explain the Bible to them.
Absolutely.
That's really good, because when you learn about the Bible at a young age, then it's a lot easier when you grow up to be able to like understand it and get that revelation, because you're basically sowing that seed into them, and it's going to get watered and it's going to grow, and they're going to grow up to be spiritually minded young men and women.
Absolutely.
That's an awesome ministry when you work with children, because, you know, it's very rewarding.
It is. It is. Sometimes it don't feel like it, but it absolutely is.
Right.
To see the smiles on their faces, and just, you know, to watch them grow and learn, you know, and the stuff that sticks with them. You can't be prepared for some of the stuff that they tell you.
Really?
You really can't. You know, and I just really sit back, you know, and just in awe, and I watch them, because, you know, I have all age groups. So, you know, from the 3-year-olds on up to my teenagers, you know, the stuff that sticks with them and the stuff that sticks out to them, you know, is really amazing.
I can imagine. It's just probably stuff you would never even think of, and then they probably end up teaching you some stuff sometimes, huh?
They do. They do.
Isn't that ironic?
Yes.
Kids are great like that.
Yeah, they are. And they're very inspirational.
Yeah, they are. Jesus. So what made you decide, or what made you want to be a minister, or what made you accept the call and all that good stuff?
That's the funny thing, because I never wanted to be a minister. You know, I always said, you know, I'll do anything in the church. I'll clean the toilets, I'll clean the floor, anything you want me to do. I don't want to preach. You know, there's a lot of preachers in my family, and so, you know, it was always thought, oh, my brother's going to be the preacher. You know, I passed it off. I'll marry a preacher. You know, everybody but me. You know, and so I actually happened to be at a service, and one of the ministers there started praying, and he's like, you know, he was like, I don't know if you're already doing it. He was like, but you need to be teaching, and you need to be preaching. And he was like, the word of God just flows from you, and you need to walk in that. And I was just dumbfounded, because I'm like, I teach the kids, that's good enough. You know, and then when I sat down and, you know, and I talked to my father about it, who's actually my pastor, you know, he was like, well, yeah, we've seen it for years. We were just waiting for you. And, you know, I ran from it. You know, I definitely ran from it. It wasn't anything I wanted to do. You know, I took a trip to Florida. I got me a tattoo. I decided to go out because I was going to prove to God that, you know, I'm not the one that you want, Lord. I got some issues. I got some problems. You want someone else to preach for you. Right. And then when I came back from Florida, I was working on my lesson with the kids, and it was about Moses and when he went to the burning bush. And so anyone who's familiar with that story will know that, you know, Moses kept giving God all these excuses, the fact that he stuttered and the fact that, you know, he wasn't anybody important, so he couldn't preach. And as I'm preparing my lesson, I'm getting frustrated with Moses. And I'm like, dude, just do what God asked you to do. And no sooner did that thought cross my mind, and the Holy Spirit was like, well, then what's your excuse? What's your problem? And I just sat there and was just dumbfounded, like, wow. All right, God, you win.
Wow.
You win.
Isn't just that fast?
Yeah.
After the tattoo, after just wilding out, like, not me, God, you got me confused.
Yes.
And then just that one story in Moses. What after you got that epiphany, like, did you go in the bathroom and cry? Like, how did you respond to that? Because you were at church, you're getting ready to teach the kids at this time?
No, I was at home. I was at home preparing my lesson, and I just sat there and was just like, wow. It was just like a seriously wow moment. I just sat there and I just couldn't even move, and, you know, and then I just started praying and, you know, and just giving God praise and just thanking him, you know, for being patient with me. You know, because he didn't have to, you know, be patient with me to let me come to that realization on my own. Right. You know, I've learned that, you know, it's much better to just go ahead and stay in his will than it is to keep running from it.
I can imagine, because so much happens when you run from your purpose.
Yes.
So, can you share with us, like, some experiences that you had as a child, like just any abusive experience that you encountered as a child?
Yeah, as a, you know, my parents never got married, and so I was raised by my father. And I had a relative of mine who we would hang out often, and, you know, he would want me to do things, you know, and if I didn't do them, then, you know, he wouldn't be my friend, or he would go and tell on me. And at that age, you know, it was really, really important to me, you know, that, you know, I fit in, and that, you know, I did everything, you know, that my cousin wanted me to do. And I didn't know, you know, at that age, you know, it felt wrong, but I wasn't sure if it was really wrong. And I was like, well, he's older than me. He knows better than I do. Yeah. You know, so, you know, I just did it and didn't think anything of it until, you know, you start getting older, you know, and I probably about 4th or 5th grade, and, you know, and he'd be like, well, you got to kiss me and kiss him over there too. Then it was like, okay, hold up.
Oh, he brought friends with him?
Well, the thing is that they were my cousins.
Oh,
you know, and I was the only girl, and they were all boys. You know, technically, you know, we weren't blood relatives. You know, they were, you know, from my stepmom's side of the family. But nevertheless, as far as I was concerned, you know, they were family. Right. You know, so yeah, I mean, that was, you know, that definitely was awkward, and you know, and it was odd. And then, you know, I moved to New Jersey, and my freshman year, and there was this particular uncle of ours who used to come around, and, you know, and at first he'd just give me a hug, and you know, and it felt too tight, and then, you know, one day he tried to kiss me, and then, oh my God. Yeah, and I went to my mom. I'm like, Mom, you know, what's up with him? And you know, my mother's like, well, he's kind of like that, and I'm like, so it's okay that he tries to touch people? You know, but I mean, in your mind, that begins to, you know, to bother you. And I started to think, you know, is that you know, all that guys look at me for? They just look at me because, you know, they want to have sex with me, they want to kiss me, they want to touch and feel on me. And for me, you know, I always tell everybody I'm a little bit off, you know, so
aren't we all?
I'm just off. You know, so for me, the way that I kind of dealt with that whole thought process of, you know, it being, you know, men and that's all they wanted from me was, you know what, I'm gonna treat them like that. Okay. You know, I'm gonna get you before you can get me. And, you know, I was a bit promiscuous, big time, you know, but I felt like I was, you know, I was taking one for the team. I was vindicating women.
Right, I understand. So you kind of became them as a defense mechanism to kind of like protect yourself.
Yeah.
Isn't it ironic? Because some women that have been abused become like sexually timid, whereas other women will become promiscuous. So it could really go either way, but it's normally a response from just being victimized and being sexually abused. Very traumatic. So you were promiscuous, you like during your high school years and stuff like that?
Yeah, I started drinking early, drinking and just smoking. So, you know, now I look back and I laugh, but I'm like, really? I was in the club every Thursday night, every Friday night, Saturday night, and Sunday I went skating. You know, and that, and that was my routine every single week, every single week. You know, I get high every day, go to school, come back. You know, it was just crazy.
Kind of just partying, huh?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Absolutely.
Interesting.
Absolutely.
Wow. So, where were you living? Were you in New Jersey at that time?
Yeah,
and you're in high school, right?
Yeah, I was in New Jersey. Yeah.
And it was like a little rougher out there probably too than Connecticut, or?
Most certainly. I was in Camden, so I think for a while they were like #2 for the highest crime rate in the country. So.
Wow.
So yeah, a bit different than Connecticut.
And that's probably why you kind of was like a little bit more hood with it and like trying to be tough, right?
Yeah, big time. You know, well, because when I was here in Connecticut, you know, I always, you know, I was never black enough. You know, because I'm light skinned and I got freckles, you know, and
it's so silly.
but that's really what it boiled down to, you know. The way that they had us broken up in middle school, you know, I was in the top classes, but nobody understood that, you know, if I brought home a C, my dad was gonna kill me. I had to have A's and B's, you know.
So you had to be like academically successful, but also be like a little bit gangster at the same time.
Right, but they wouldn't let me because, you know, Dad wasn't having none of that. So it's like when I moved to New Jersey, you know, my mother was, you know, she was a bit more relaxed. So yeah, I got hood real good, real good.
I can imagine. Listen, thank you so much for tuning in with us. There's never a dull moment in Keisha's world, so stay tuned. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Keisha's World, Connecticut. Thank you so much for tuning in. We are honoring Domestic Violence Awareness Month, and we have a fabulous guest with us, Reverend Middiree Gibbs of Grace and Mercy Baptist Church, and she was just telling us about some of her experiences growing up and surviving sexual abuse. So if you could just tell us a little bit about when you got a little bit older, and you got into a situation where you were a victim of domestic violence. Like, how did that relationship start, and what went on that, you know, as far as abusive stuff and everything?
So actually, that was my first husband, and so we met at my brother-in-law's mother's funeral. He's best friends with my sister's, well, my sister's now ex-husband. They introduced us to one another, and
it was like a hookup?
Yeah.
At a funeral? Where they do that at?
Only in Connecticut.
No, that is it. That should have been your clue right there, girl.
Yeah. You're right.
But we don't think about that.
No, you don't. You think about stuff in hindsight, you know, like how crazy is that to be hooking people up at funerals? But nevertheless, you know, we dated for a while, and, you know, we got really close. You know, and I would say probably about 6 months in, he proposed to me, and, you know, I was excited. You know, of course, you know, why wouldn't I, you know, be excited? But we ran into a problem when it came time to deciding a date to get married. Because I wasn't in any rush. I was 22.
Oh wow, yeah, you were young.
I was in no rush. I was like, well, you know, when we do it, we do it. You know, but for him, it was much more of a, you know, well, I don't want to wait too long. Let's go ahead and get married type of thing. And when I
you changed your mind, huh?
Yeah, well, you know, come to find out, it's because he could only hold the skeletons for so long. So you know, that's what the big rush was. But again, the things that you find out in hindsight,
right.
you know, and the thing that was just always so nagging to me was my interactions with his mother. You know, sometimes, you know, his mom would just be arms wide open. Oh, I love you so much, you're great. And then there'd be other times where she wouldn't say 2 words to me, you know, and you would just feel tension in the house.
Oh my goodness.
You know, and then there were times where, you know, if she got mad at him, it was my fault. And I'm like, whoa, how did I have anything to do with that? You know, he got into a fight with his brother over a wedding. It was just a lot of tension in between the family, and it always came back at me, you know, and I could never, you know, quite understand why. You know, why was it my fault? And I'm like the new one here. I don't, you know, I have no idea what's going on.
Was this before you got married or after?
This was before.
Oh, wow.
This was before we got married. And, you know, and a friend of mine was like, well, you know, you're not marrying the family, you're marrying him. You know, I think about that now and I'm like, yeah, no. No,
you marrying the family too. Ain't it the truth?
I tell you different. You can marry the family too. You know, and so finally we agreed to get married. So he proposed to me in December. We got married in August.
Wow.
Yeah.
Fast.
Yeah, it is. And in between that, I think I had given him his ring back at least twice.
Really?
Yeah. One night that always stuck out to me was, for whatever reason, he wanted to wrestle. I'm not for wrestling, even at 22, not so much. Maybe when I was 7 or 8, but you know, and you know, some doing too much playing.
Yeah.
You know, and he got mad and he hit me. Okay. And it wasn't like no love tap. It wasn't, you know, no playing. I was like, oh, that was real. So I hit him back. Yeah, that's that hood.
Yeah,
you know,
that gangster from Camden.
a little bit. You know, and I was just like, yo, what is it? You know, what was that all about? And we were at his house, and his mother came in the room, and at that point, I was like, yeah, no, I'm done. I was like, that's not okay, you know. And his mom was like, well, no, you know, you guys were just playing. You know how sometimes it gets a little out of control. She's like, but you know, you guys are good for each other. You know, you should work it out. And you know, and I listened to her, and I was like, okay, you know, she's right. I also know that, you know, for me, I had a history. You know, if you did something I ain't like, I'm out. You know, and so I got, you know, teased a lot that I never stick in a relationship. I just go, you know. So I was like, you know what, I'm gonna make this work. You know, it's gonna work. You know, that's just one time. You know, and then I probably say maybe a couple of weeks later, he admitted to me that, you know, he had hit, you know, his baby mama once before, you know, but he was like, it was just once. It only happened one time. Yeah. And so I'm like, okay, you know, all right, it's just one time. You know, and then we got married. You know, the wedding, I can't say was the day of my dreams. It didn't go exactly how I had planned for it to go. You know, but hey, you know, we're married. While we were away, my wedding ring got stuck on my finger. So our first morning of us being married, I wake up to my finger being purple. Because it was cutting off my circulation. Wow. Yeah.
That's not good.
No, it's not. And so we had to leave the hotel and race to the emergency room, and they had to cut my wedding band off of my finger because it was too small for my hand.
Already the Lord was mad with you, like, listen, what do I have to do? I'm cutting the ring off, you know, this is a sign.
The Lord was mad at me before. The day of the wedding, one of the bridesmaids, she had got her dress 2 sizes too small.
Oh my goodness.
She went to try to dress on it, and it was huge. She had lost that much weight.
Okay.
It was huge, so we had to get that altered. And so that morning we were getting our hair done, and I was like, all right, while you're in the chair, I'm gonna go ahead and go get your dress. So I left beauty parlor, went to pick up her dress. On the way back, I got on the highway. My car did a complete 360 at the top of the ramp. Mind you, it wasn't slippery out. It's August. You know, it was raining a little bit. It was like a thin mist.
So basically, you had signs.
Yeah.
You got signs, but you didn't pay attention to them.
No, I thought, hey, I was going too fast. Maybe that's why I spun a 360 at the top of the highway. But then when I got off the highway, 2 cars crashed right in front of me.
Oh my God, that's crazy. Wow. Tell us a little bit though about what happened during the marriage. Like what kind of abuse took place? When did his true colors, you know, so tell us about the true colors.
Not even a month in. You know, not even a month in.
What did you find out about him and stuff? Like,
well, the first thing that happened was with the money. You know, that started first, and you know, I had actually, it happens naturally. You gain weight, you put weight on. I needed to buy some bigger clothes, and he was like, no. He was like, you know, you got fat. You need to lose weight. And, you know, I was a size 10 and he was telling me I was fat. You know, and I had no idea, you know, just how much he was just breaking down who I was. Because he didn't want me to buy any new clothes. What I had was good enough and I needed to deal with that. He didn't want me to go anywhere. So, you know, we started off going to church, but then he didn't want me to go to church. He didn't want me to see my family. You know, he didn't want me to do anything but be with him and don't go anywhere because otherwise it's a problem. And
was he still physical too, like hitting you and you guys get into fights and stuff?
Well, the thing is that most of the time he worked at night. So, you know, we would have arguments, but it wasn't anything physical until Christmas time. So Christmas time came and we started putting up the lights, and then we had an agreement, you know, I would decorate the rest of the house. He wanted to do the tree by himself. All right, fine, no problem. And so I'm decorating the rest of the house. He finishes the tree, and he's like, well, let's go to bed. I'm not ready to go to bed yet, you know, but no, he wanted to go to bed, so all right, fine, we go to bed. He wakes up before me the next morning, and he starts decorating the rest of the house. So I wake up, and I'm like, what are you doing? You know, you just wanted the tree. And as silly as that sounds, you know, we started arguing right then and there about who's supposed to do what. So I went upstairs because I know I got an attitude. Let me go upstairs. So he comes upstairs and we're arguing. And he went to unplug the television, and because I took the remote from him. And so as he's unplugging the TV, the VCR falls on his head. So he jumps up. And all I see is just hands coming from across the room, and he just puts his hands around my neck and starts strangling me. And so we begin fighting. My daughter's in the house and my sister. So my sister comes in the room, and my sister pushes him off of me. He hits my sister.
Wow.
So I jumped up and I hit him back, and we just started fighting.
My God.
You know, my sister grabs my daughter and takes my daughter out of the room, and we're just going back and forth. And, you know, finally, you know, I hit him and I said, that's it. I said, just get out. Get your stuff and just get out. Just get out. So in the process of him leaving, the neighbors had called the police. The police come and they check his ID and find out that he's on probation.
So you didn't know he was on probation before you married him?
No.
What was he on probation for?
Because he had molested a child.
Get out of here.
Yeah, so he's not supposed to be in a household with anyone under the age of 16, and my daughter was 4.
Oh my God. So you realize that now you've married this man that is not only emotionally abusive, physically abusive, but he's also a child molester, and you have a little girl.
Yes.
Okay, that's devastating.
Yes.
Wow.
Yes. And so, you know, once he, you know, gets locked up for violating his probation, then all the truth comes out, you know, and I find that, you know, he was lying to his mother about me, and, you know, times when he was supposed to pick her up, he told her that I didn't want him to.
And that's why she would act funny towards you sometimes?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep. And his son's mom had asked him if he had told me about, you know, his molestation case because it was her niece that he had molested. And he told her he told me, you know, and she was like, I couldn't understand why you married him. And
so you kind of like just looking like a fool. It's like men that are abusive, they go around and they tell people all these stories about you to make the other person look at you in a certain way, so that when you come out and say, well, this man is abusing me, oh, well, it's probably because you so bad, right?
Yep.
Isn't that a mess?
Yep.
That happens every single day.
Yeah.
Every single day. Wow. So we only have a few more minutes, but I just wanted to ask you, how did you transition from that and get to where you are today? If you could just let the women out there know, just to give them a little bit of hope for the women that might be able to identify with you.
I had an awesome support system because I had lost so much of who I was. You know, it really was like my best friend and my sister. They really just pulled me out and just made me get out of the house, you know, first of all, it made me get out of the house, go get your hair done, buy your outfit, you know, and it's like I had to start small. You know, I really had to start with small things. And then I had to allow myself to forgive or to get over my anger, because I was really mad at God. I was like, God, you let me marry this man, and I was blaming God for it. And it really wasn't him. It wasn't him at all.
Isn't it a shame how we blame him like he made us marry the fool?
Yes. Yeah.
Oh, mercy.
Yeah. And it was like, you know, the minute I went back to God and I began to start talking to him, he actually blessed me with an opportunity of working with teenage girls.
Wow.
And so I started choreographing dances for this teenage group. And anybody knows working with teenage girls between ages of 13 and 15, you know, you definitely have your hands full. But that opportunity was such a blessing for me, and it was such a healing process because it gave me the opportunity to talk to them about the stuff that I had been through and to help them, you know, pick up on the warning signs that I had missed the first time around.
Oh, okay.
You know, and so, you know, it was just, and to me, it made it worthwhile. You know, the fact that I went through all of that hurt, if I could help them to avoid that, then it was definitely worth it for me.
So you went through all that, then you end up giving back to these girls, and so now you remarried, right?
I am married.
Nice. You said that,
4 years.
Girl, you said that with a smile. Yeah, yes, he is my man. I know that's right.
Listen,
all right,
I know what a
Mr.
good one look like.
I know that's right. So you're happily married now. So God was able to turn it around for you.
Absolutely, absolutely. The key is to keep your hand in His hand. That's the key.
But the first step is letting go of that old abusive relationship. Yeah. Having the strength, and so you can keep it moving.
Yeah, yeah.
I know that's right. Well, thank you so much for tuning in, Connecticut, to Keisha's World, where there's never a dull moment, apparently. So until next time, take care and God bless.